A daring rescue behind enemy lines. The place, North Vietnam.
There was no way they were ever going to catch me.
Two Navy SEALs silently paddle a sampan boat downriver, rescued their man, and hidden him under a pile of bamboo. Now they just need to escape. And that's not easy when they need to keep their starving, injured, delirious charge from crying out and alerting the enemy sleeping just feet away on the riverbank. On April 2, 1972, Lieutenant Colonel Iceel Hambleton, who went by Gene, and 5 other crew members were flying on board an EB-66, which was equipment for jamming electronic signals rather than actual fighting.
We were in the air for one reason, to keep the missiles off of the B-52.
In other words, Hambleton's plane was being used as bait in order to draw fire away from the bomber. The problem is that it worked too well. The crew were caught off guard by North Vietnamese forces, reacting just 5 seconds too late to an incoming surface-to-air missile.
Break left! Break left!
Even though they were flying at above 30,000 feet, Hambleton quickly realized that his only choice was to hit eject. He got out just before a second missile strike obliterated the aircraft. He was the only member of the crew to survive. Hambleton's parachute was rigged to open automatically at 14,000 feet. Fortunately, Hambleton took control of his own fate. Speaking to the Aviation Geek Club, he explained, "If I'd waited for the barometric opener to open the chute, I'd have been out in the clear with 30,000 enemy troops around me, and I wouldn't be here today." Hambleton manually deployed his parachute at just below 28,000 feet, where dense fog gave him enough cover to land without being spotted by the enemy. But landing safely was only the first challenge.
I figured if I could get on the ground, and if I could last the first night, there was no way they were ever going to catch me.
On the other hand, in an interview with the Syracuse Post-Standard, Hambleton shared, "I got on the ground and found out what war was." Hambleton and his superiors knew they had to get him out of there quick. He wasn't just a navigator. He had experience with ballistic missiles and a top-secret security clearance.
I'm told that the communists will have a dossier on him that thick.
With all Hambleton knew, he would be a prized prisoner for the Russian and North Vietnamese. For the US, the consequences could have been devastating. Hambleton touched down on a rice paddy just south of the demilitarized zone between North and South Vietnam. He began what would be a nearly 2-week game of deadly hide-and-seek.
I got out of there and then got up into in the woodlands, the forest, or whatever you want to call it, and dug me a hole up there and hid.
The injuries he'd sustained between the firefight and the parachute landing included a ripped finger, shrapnel embedded in his body, and a compressed spine that severely affected his mobility. Hambleton was in extreme pain as he did his best to stay quiet and undetected while making his way to safety. The odds were against him. The North Vietnamese army was on the hunt for any Americans who'd survived the attack.
The lieutenant colonel in those days was worth about $900 to $1,000, dead or alive.
Hambleton was stranded behind enemy lines with nothing but a bare-bones survival kit. 2 emergency radios, a water bottle, a knife, flares, a first aid kit, a small firearm, a compass, and a map. His radio was his lifeline. He managed a distress call to the U.S. Army, and they set out to rescue him. Hambleton admitted to the U.S. Army War College, "Without that radio, I was dead."
Roger, I have you, Bat 2-1 Bravo.
The jungle that gave Hambleton enough cover to evade capture also made it nearly impossible for the Americans to extract him, at first at least. This would probably be a good time to give a bit of background here. Gene was a career Air Force navigator from Rossville, Illinois. His first tour of duty was during World War II, although he didn't see combat until the Korean War in 1950. When the time came, Hambleton was ready. Over the course of the war, he served as navigator on a B-29 bomber, completing more than 40 missions. During the 1960s, Hambleton worked with the missiles as part of the Jupiter Medium Range Ballistic Missile and Titan I and II intercontinental ballistic missile programs. And when the Vietnam War kicked off, if you're doing the math in your head there, yes, Hambleton was old, 53 years old to be exact. Not exactly a spring chicken to be stuck in enemy territory. Hambleton's descent by parachute took about 15 minutes. That's an eternity to float unprotected toward the earth behind enemy lines. Hambleton had guidance. A U.S. forward air controller pilot talked him down over the emergency radio. Once Hambleton was on the ground, Colonel Cecil Muirhead, the U.S. commander of rescue forces in Vietnam, ordered round-the-clock forward air control coverage around Hambleton's known position. There were 6 controllers assigned to this mission around the clock, changing shifts every 4 hours. One of these controllers, Captain Jimmy D. Kempton, coordinated the next few unsuccessful rescue attempts. Meanwhile, Muirhead ordered Captains Rocky Smith and Richard Atchison, who were aboard one of the Army helicopters monitoring Hamilton, to set a standard 27-kilometer no-fire zone, that's 16.8 miles, around Hamilton's position to keep him safe from air or artillery fire from either side. Looking back, this is extremely problematic, but more on that later. The first rescue attempt got underway just minutes after Hamilton's boots safely hit the ground. A 4-man crew flying a UH-1 Iroquois helicopter, call sign Blue Ghost 39, was sent into Quang Tri Province after Hamilton. It didn't have the full picture though. They had no idea the area was swarming with North Vietnamese soldiers. After taking on enemy fire, the rescue chopper crashed, leaving 3 men dead. Pilots First Lieutenant Byron Kent Cullen, Warrant Officer John Wesley Frink, and Crew Chief Specialist 5 Ronald Paschal. Gunner Specialist 5 Jose Astorga was captured.
Those of us who are left to carry on this battle realize that this is going to be one very tough rescue.
For nearly a week, U.S. forces unsuccessfully tried to safely extract Hamilton from the battlefield. One of the rescuers, First Lieutenant Mark Clark, was shot down during a rescue flight, so now there were 2 men who needed extraction. To distract the North Vietnamese, U.S. command in Saigon sent in hundreds of airstrikes around the known locations of both Clark and Hamilton. 4 days after Hamilton's unplanned descent, U.S. command ordered 42 airstrikes around him and sent in another rescue helicopter. HH-53 helicopter Jolly Green 67 swooped in only to be caught once again by surprise. The helicopter went down, killing the 6-man crew.
Jolly's down, Jolly's down. Jolly down.
On April 7th, another support helicopter went down, crashing near the wreckage of Blue Ghost 39. As the days passed, each unsuccessful rescue attempt just added more names to the list of captured and deceased U.S. airmen. By April 9th, the rescue operation had already cost 14 lives, 2 captured airmen, 2 more missing, and 8 destroyed aircraft. That's when General Creighton Abrams, the overall commander of the U.S. forces in Vietnam, pivoted. He put a stop to helicopter rescue attempts, and the surviving rescue airmen were withdrawn from the area. According to reports, it was Marine Lieutenant Colonel Andy Anderson who came up with an alternative search and rescue solution, Operation Bright Light, a less costly ground-based mission that utilized highly specialized Navy SEALs. It sounds like the obvious thing to do, at least from our 21st century armchair quarterback position. But at this point, Operation Bright Light's track record was dismal. In the 6 years since it began, there had been no successful American prisoner of war rescues by the team. This time, Bright Light's mission was to keep Hamilton from becoming a POW in the first place. The operation was under the command of U.S. Navy SEAL Lieutenant Thomas R. Norris. The small elite team consisted of South Vietnamese Navy Petty Officer Nguyen Van Kit and 4 others from the South Vietnamese counterparts of the Navy SEALs. Their mission was to rendezvous with Hamilton and Clark. After the meetings, the men were each separately radioed instructions to guide them to a nearby riverbank. The next day, a ground rescue team was deployed near the Song Mugang River. They established a bunker, then got to work. Their orders were to rescue Clark first, under cover of night, but the rescue team wasn't in direct contact with their targets, in case eavesdropping North Vietnamese troops understood English. Instead, the radio operators resorted to creative ways of passing instructions to the 2 imperiled airmen. Clark, an Idaho native, was told, "When the moon goes over the mountains, become Esther Williams and get in the Snake and go from Boise to Twin Falls." Get it? Esther Williams was a swimmer and actress who starred in the 1950 film Duchess of Idaho, while Boise and Twin Falls are cities in Idaho. Snake refers to the Snake River that runs in Idaho. It's basically gibberish idioms to the Viet Cong. The team assumed, or maybe just hoped desperately, that Clark would understand the uniquely coded message. Still, the initial attempt to retrieve Clark was a bust. The team saw Clark floating downstream but had to let him pass.
I could hear him coming. He was breathing hard. I could hear him on the water, but we also had a North Vietnamese patrol that was coming right through the location.
After the danger passed, the rescue team went out to look for Clark. They found him a few hours later. Even then, they almost didn't make it out. North Vietnamese troops found their bunker and attacked, but Anderson called in airstrikes, distracting the enemy and giving the team time and cover to get out of the area alive.
He called me and told me that we were going to play 18 holes of golf, and I asked him, "What are you snorting?"
Hamilton wasn't from Idaho like Clark, but he was an avid golfer with vivid memories of specific golf courses. Some of the coded instructions he received included playing 18 holes and starting at number 1 at Tucson National. Hamilton remembered that Tucson National was 408 yards running southeast, so he figured out that the team was telling him to run in the direction of the river. Rescuers used descriptions of particular golf course holes to direct Hamilton to the extraction point and avoid the enemy, but not completely. At one point, a desperate, hungry Hamilton tried to capture a rooster, only to be attacked by an assailant hiding in the dark. Hamilton killed his attacker, but not before getting his left shoulder slashed. When he finally got to Norris and Petty Officer Van Kitt, who were disguised as fishermen, on April 13th, he had a broken wrist and was semi-delirious, having lost a staggering 45 pounds after contracting food poisoning by drinking contaminated water.
He would go in and out of consciousness and sometimes ramble, which we tried to restrict because we were still out in enemy territory.
The U.S. had Hamilton, but they weren't home free. The trek to safety was dangerous, and they ran into North Vietnamese soldiers not once, but twice. They managed to evade the enemy the first time, but the second time was a different story. They found themselves staring down the business end of a heavy machine gun. Fortunately, Norris radioed for help, and 7 bombers from the USS Hancock swept over to give them air cover. The chaos allowed Norris, Van Kitt, and Hamilton to make it safely back to base. The operation had taken 2 weeks. Hamilton and Clark were rescued in the end, but the cost was heavy. Many members of the various rescue teams sustained injuries, and the U.S. ordered over 800 airstrikes to support the operation. And then there was the collateral damage. The no-fire zone that protected Hamilton may have left South Vietnamese soldiers exposed.
When somebody draws this circle, it says no fire in this zone. They're not aware of the battle.
We'll never know if there were lives lost as a result. Hamilton, while grateful to have been rescued, felt the weight of all that had gone into saving him. He told the Associated Press, "It was a hell of a price to pay for one life." After he and his team successfully brought back Clark and Hamilton, Lieutenant Norris received the Medal of Honor, the highest award given for valor in military service. Reportedly, Norris initially rejected this, perhaps due to his team's failure to rescue a third U.S. military man, First Lieutenant Bruce Walker. However, Norris ultimately accepted the award in 1975.
I'd do it anytime if I can bring back another pilot.
Meanwhile, for his role in the rescue mission, Van Kitt was awarded the U.S. Navy Cross, the second highest award for U.S. military heroism in 1976. Only one other Vietnamese serviceman has received this honor. Even though Hamilton was successfully rescued, it became painfully clear to the U.S. military that their procedures and protocols needed major changes if they were going to minimize casualties and expenses in the future. Standard operating procedures were reevaluated, including the prerequisites for launching a search and rescue operation, and updates were made to military technology and training to avoid sending future rescuers to their own deaths. As for Hamilton, he received the Silver Star, the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Air Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal, and the Purple Heart for his service during the Vietnam War. After retiring from the military in 1973, Hamilton became a founding member of the FBI Hostage Rescue Team, a job for which his harrowing experience in the jungles of Vietnam likely prepared him. He eventually retired to Arizona, where he played plenty of golf. Hamilton died on September 19, 2004 from pneumonia connected to lung cancer.